Welcome back. This is part 2 of a 2-part episode, so if you haven't seen part 1, you should probably go do that. As a refresher, I mentioned 5 important glitches that I'm going to use. Leaf pumping, ledge clipping, the bomb jump, the item slide, and the infinite jump. And from now on, I'm going to be trying to break the timeline. And for your convenience, I've put together a long list of events that make up the shortest possible path to beat the game without any glitches. I've come up with 7 different categories of things that happen relating to the timeline. Items. These are all of the important things you get in the game. You cannot get rid of these voluntarily. Cutscene. This is when a cutscene plays. The important cutscenes usually only play once, never to be seen again in that playthrough. They can be triggered in different ways, but that isn't that important. Events. These are always paired with another category. An event is basically just a consequence, which is usually a change in the environment, but can include things such as an extra tab appearing in your inventory. Dialogue. You talk with a lot of characters in this game, but sometimes they'll have big consequences, and sometimes they only happen once. Actions. This is pretty much just a trigger, but one that's really obvious. These require a lot more intention than just accidentally walking into a load zone. Honestly, I did get rid of these and it wouldn't make that much of a difference. Battles. These are the last things that occur in temples, but they may include other important fights. Songs. This is just when you learn a song on the Wind Waker. Now, let's break the game. I'm going to be using the infinite jump a lot, but it isn't going to be easy. As I said, Link is dead, so most of the time landing on another island won't matter unless we revive Link. And in some cases, we can. This is possible by hearts that are always spawned, and sometimes things that drop hearts. But this does not include heart pieces. I know of only 5 spots where hearts are spawned out in the open on the map. Headstone Isle and Dale Isle on these rock pillars, the soon-to-be Link's Cabana hidden in the water, Forsaken Fortress 1 under the window, which is completely useless because it's not even on the same map, and finally on Dragon Roost Island. But there's just a single heart among many rupees, and it's hiding under this water. It's still strange that this heart even exists. But of course, I'll be showcasing this one way later in the video, as what it entails is more than just trivial. Starting on Outset, there's really nothing we can do until we get the hero sword. A sword enables us to do the infinite jump. So here are some attempts at trying to make it to other islands, which is when I figured out that Link will pretty much always respawn on Outset Island, no matter where he is when he dies at this point in the game. My first big infinite jump. Sadly, I didn't quite make it. My first time landing on a different island. I went to Forsaken Fortress and found that it was the second version. More proof that Forsaken Fortress 1 is on a different map. I had a hunch that Back in Time worked because both the flying minigame and this state of Outset were both loaded at the same time. But sadly, that wasn't the case. Using these hearts on Headstone, we can survive this trip. Once there, if you try to pick up the stone, this strange voice tells Link that he can't do that yet. I can't imagine who that could be. Link must be so confused. This next one is very appropriate. I mean, let's be honest, it's your birthday. You don't want to rescue some random girl from a big scary forest just to have your sister kidnapped. You deserve a invitation. And a invitation you'll get. You just need to grab one of these hearts under this water. Once you're successful, grab a drink and sit back in a lawn chair. Life couldn't be better. In Forsaken Fortress 1, when you talk to Tetra for the first time via the Gossip Stone, the pirate ship gets updated. Now, when you enter it, either later in the game, or right here in Forsaken Fortress, you'll be able to get the bombs. You just skip this dialogue by jumping to the rocks. Let's assume you're beating the game normally and you've skipped this dialogue. When you get to the pirate ship to get the bombs, the door still leads to Forsaken Fortress 1, and now everything is black. When you reset the game, you are swordless. There is an easy way to fix this. You just need to sail to this submarine and get caught by a moblin. Because you are without a sword, he'll capture you, and that'll put you in Forsaken Fortress 1. From here, just activate the Gossip Stone. At Windfall, you still pretty much always respawn on the island upon dying. But it turns out we can corrupt the game by landing on Mother Isle. Since Tina Red Lions is active at this point in the game, you'll appear on him inside of this place. But since it's out of your current boundaries, you'll get stuck sailing like this forever. Now this game may be all about wind, but you really don't need a sail. Just infinite jump over to Dale Isle from Windfall, making sure you don't grab a sail beforehand, and then land on a heart. While I'm here in Dale Isle, you can actually break the stone from up here with the Stole Hammer before getting the iron boots, but learning the song will end up in a game freeze. Back to the sail. When you reset the game, Link will find himself in a sailless boat just offshore from Windfall. Now, cruising may be a slow way to travel, but it is possible to make it to Hyrule like this if you're careful not to let Teen Red Lines talk to you in certain spots, which will leave you listening to him talking for the rest of your life. And since Link is a polite little boy, he's not just going to leave while someone is speaking, which means your game is soft-locked. Another thing to keep in mind is boarding your boat. Without a sail, getting on board is a no-no for Link, unless he drowns. Then, most of the time, you'll appear in the boat, and since the only way out of Hyrule is via the boat, you're stranded. I was desperate enough to try and move the boat to the light with bombs, but sadly that didn't work. You know, this whole thing reminds me of how useless the Wind's Requiem really is. In fact, the only time you need it is to spawn those treasure chests during the Triforce hunt. And they have the nerve to call this game The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. And because the Wind's Requiem is so useless, let's just skip it. In fact, let's skip a lot of stuff on Dragonroost. Normally when you drown near Dragonroost Island, Link appears on the shore, but if you infinite jump far away enough, preferably outside of the quadrant, Link is back in the boat. We can travel down to Forest Haven and use a ledge clip to get inside, and even though the leaf spawns, we need the grappling hook to get past this part. And let me tell you, I spent countless agonizing hours trying to get that darn leaf. I mean, look how close I am to this flower. And even the infinite jump wasn't enough. I tried over and over, but I knew when to throw in the towel. Since we can't skip Dragonroost Island entirely, let's just skip getting the bottle from Medley, or even talking to Medley or Kamali at all. On the way to Forest Haven, there's a submarine. If you clear it, you receive a bottle. And if you recall, the bottle was the only thing keeping you from watering those bomb plants next to the crater. The first bottle was supposed to be given to you by Medley, but we got a different one. So let's just use this to get past that part. If you get into the crater before skipping this part, you can witness Medley standing in the crater as it fills up. The only remains are these ripples on top of the water, unless you infinite jump over this wall. Then you can see her just sitting down there. If you get to the point where it's constantly raining, and then finish the dungeon, the last cutscene will play in the rain. The only case where I used an object to get a heart was getting to Forsaken Fortress 2 early. Right after you get the bombs, get to the 4-Eye Reef and infinite jump to this spot. Drop a bomb using your leaf, and hopefully you'll break the skull and be able to grab the heart that comes out. You can also just use a super swim to get to these rocks, and then a normal item slide to flip aside. If you get in your boat, you'll try to get out of this quadrant, but will be blocked by a wall. And then you'll start spazzing out. If you drown, your boat will ride off into the distance and take forever to get out of the zone that's off limits. Even though you're here, you won't be able to defeat Phantom Ganon, because you don't have the Master Sword. And that means no Skull Hammer, which means no entering the door. I tried to enter the door with an infinite jump, attempting to get a heart from either the skulls or the mini blends, but nothing worked. I once landed on the seam of this box, which is ridiculous. I even tried item sliding. And although my attempts to break and enter were futile, there is in fact a way to get through that door. And it's by making it go away via a method called Master Sword Early. To start off, you'll need to do Gossip Stone Skip by jumping onto these rocks, and then play normally until you reach the part before you get to the pirate ship at Windfall Island. Enter it as you normally would, and then exit. This should seem familiar. Now, reset your game and either super swim or just sail to the submarine and enter it. Because Link is swordless, the moblins inside will catch him and send you off to jail. You are again at Forsaken Fortress 1. If you want the bombs, make your way down to the spot that will activate the Gossip Stone dialogue, reset, get the bombs, and then go back to the submarine, which will once again send you off to Forsaken Fortress 1. Whether you have the bombs or not, finish this place normally and enter the door. Instead of the cutscene that plays with you talking to the Teen Red Lions, you'll just spawn on that cave. Everything may look normal, but you're actually in a different version of the world, the one that you are usually in during the dialogue that didn't play. And in this version, the door for Forsaken Fortress 2 is gone. This cues us for the really tricky part. You have to super swim to Forsaken Fortress without drowning, dying, or entering any load zones. From this corner, item slide jump over here. For this part, you'll either need plenty of magic or lots of skill when gliding to the other ladder. I'd recommend waking a northerly wind. Once up here, just make your way to the door and you'll find that it's not there. So, with nothing in your way, walk into the light and, after this cutscene, the Master Sword is all yours. If you're not into all that complicated traveling, then there's a way to clip through the door with an item slide. You just need to super swim to Forsaken Fortress 2 and climb up to this spot like I previously did, but before you walk around the corner, realize that that's where the trigger for the battle with Phantom Ganon is, and when you trigger it, you'll teleport to the ground. We can get around this by grappling this, thing. When you grapple it, you'll be teleported to the ground, but we'll see Link zip back up shortly after. Now with that out of the way, jump over here and climb up onto this spot of the wall. Phantom Ganon will follow you up here, which can mess up your initial angle, which will be crucial. So just wait for him to disappear, then drop down and target. At this point, he'll either spawn in the air in front of you or behind you, trying to hit you. You want him to spawn in the air, but if he spawns behind you, side hop to dodge the attack and then return to this spot. Keep repeating this for as long as he spawns behind you. Just remember to keep targeting. When he spawns in the air, move left and then set a bomb in front of you, and then hit it with your sword, all while targeting. Then move left until you get to this nook. Phantom Ganon won't be able to interfere with you if you don't stray too far from this spot. Now, use your grappling hook and item slide forward for a certain amount of time. I used a metronome at 150 beats per minute to help time it, courtesy of the speedrunning community. On beat 1, I unpaused, and then on beat 4, I quickly hit up on the left analog stick and then targeted. Holding up on the analog stick makes you go right instead of left after you target. Once against the wall, put away the grappling hook and pull out your sword. Target, and then pause. Now you need to hold left on the left analog stick almost perfectly. There are only a couple of directions that will work. What's supposed to happen is Link will fly through the wall, but will get stopped by a normal sized door that's stored underneath the bid door. And right as he hits it, we're going to do an air slash to get Link inside the load zone. After you think you're holding perfectly left, make sure you're still targeting, and then unpause and pause. Link will shift his body, indicating that his speed is now negative, which is required for this to work. From here on out, just keep unpausing and pausing so that you advance at most 2 frames every time. When Link disappears, that means he's underground, and is your cue to do an air slash. So, unpause and, right as the pause overlay disappears completely, go to the home menu and buffer an air slash by holding B. When you return, assuming you held the analog stick to the left correctly, Link should gain enough height to make it inside the door. If your angle was wrong, Link will go past the little door and exit over here. After you enter the load zone, everything will be the same as the previous Master Sword early. Now that we're here in Hyrule, I'm going to explain the barrier step. The barrier has 2 layers, the knockback layer and the collision layer. The knockback layer is easy to get past. You just have to pull out the Wind Waker the same frame Link would get hit by the barrier. This will cancel the knockback, allowing Link to stand inside of this layer. And now the hard part. What you want to do is stand in this corner, look up in first person, and position the camera so you can just barely see this part of the Triforce crest. This doesn't guarantee that it will work though. After aligning the camera, exit out and use the grappling hook. Then item slide forward by holding up and slightly down for about a second. Now hold up for about half a second and target. Link will begin running to the right and will move backwards until he hits the indent. If your angle and speed are correct, he should go through after a couple seconds. Before I continue, I accidentally item slid into this wall and found Link sliding for a very long time. We can make it past these gaps by using the leaf, and making sure the wind is blowing the correct way. If you exit after going into the tower, you'll find that Link gets infinite knockback from the barrier. Once we make it inside though, we'll have to skip these bosses, as fighting them will be impossible due to our lack of items, so just perform the boss step. In here, we can get the light arrows before getting the bow, but if we do that, the maximum amount of arrows we can have is 0. But we can flip into a fairy fountain to get more arrow capacity. Now return to Hyrule. Dang, firewall. After getting arrows, we can make it past the Ganon puppet boss fight, but to make it to the final boss, we have to perform a really tricky jump. And since this has been done countless times by speedrunners, I didn't invest enough time into it to get it myself. You basically just beat the game. If you skip returning to the Tower of Gods from Hyrule the second time you visit it, by doing the barrier skip, you can re-enter the Forsaken Fortress 2 door and crash the game. And finally, the biggest survivable jump in all of Wind Waker, the Outset Island to Dragon Roost Island step. This was a little tricky as I needed to jump all the way across the ocean and land on a single heart that's obscured by water. First, I needed a way to aim. I came up with the telescope method. This is when you use the telescope, zoom in on an island, and measure how much it's sticking out from the side of the lens. I used a ruler against my screen for that. As you could probably figure out, that wasn't the most reliable. So I did it against this wall, aiming at the textures on the opposite wall, but that wasn't working for me either. The final method, the one that worked for me, is when you walk into this crevice, go into first person view, and look up. The angle that worked for me looked something like this. You should see this much of the palm tree. I used a piece of tape and marked these lines on my TV, so I could adjust my angle by pixels between jumps. Once the angle was good, I needed a sure way to die and start jumping. There are multiple ways to die here on early Outset, even without bombs. We can have the pigs attack us, drown, or jump off of a cliff. The latter would be the best, as the other two will mess up your angle. Once you have a quarter heart, stand like this on the cliff. Jump slash off and start infinite jumping. Move against the side of the house without touching the roof or the ground. Once you clear these rots, you'll want to keep jumping for about an hour and a half. But it depends on how fast you go. Once you have been jumping for a good while, let Link fall. This will take a while because he'll have gained a remarkable amount of height. Then, depending on how far you got, you may need to jump for a little while more. Once you get close enough, slow down and change your camera angle to side view. Just watch the rots behind Link as a reference to where the heart is. And once you think you're in the right spot, don't hesitate to drop. Yeah, this will happen a lot. Before I show you the successful attempt, you have one guess as to how many times I made this jump before I landed on the heart. I don't know, I wasn't keeping track. Alright, so after many disappointing journeys and many sweaty brows and racing hearts due to an overload of anxiety followed by disappointment, I finally landed on the heart. And then this invisible thing started talking to me. Okay, here we are at Dragoner's Island. What now? Well, first we can get the grappling hook, which allows us to item slide. And remember that resetting the game will put us back on Outset Island. But from there, we could super swim to anywhere, so that doesn't really matter. But without a map, it can be pretty difficult. So after obtaining the grappling hook, let's super swim to Forest Haven and get the Deku Leaf and Boomerang. When you go to Windfall, no music will play, which is a little unsettling. But hey, at least we can get the camera and learn the sound of passing. Now that we have all of these items on Outset, we can do a lot of things. For example, we can get on the boat before saving Tetra. Just item slide jump and glide over. You can talk to the pirates, but some of them aren't exactly normal, and entering the boat will take you to Forsaken Fortress. If we attempt to enter Fairy Woods after Forsaken Fortress or at night in this state, it will freeze the game. Entering Fairy Woods before Forsaken Fortress, we can't do a whole bunch, but hey, we can get some pretty good shots with the camera. After the sequence in Fairy Woods, the pirate ship appears next to the shore, and Tetra and some of her gang are standing next to it. Normally, you would have to get the shield and then talk to her, but we can just float to the ship's deck from Errol's Lookout and go to Forsaken Fortress that way. If you progress through the game like this until you get to the bombs, you can perform back in time and then return to Outset. Because you never initiated the cutscene that plays by talking to Tetra, she's still standing out here. But if we talk to her, no cutscene plays. Instead, the camera gets locked in this position with Grandma standing next to the pier. Anything that's supposed to lock the camera angle will soft lock the game, such as the Postbots, the Wind Waker, doors, and dying. But pretty much anything else will work. Targeting will result in these rapid face changes. We can get some pretty sweet shots with explosions, and this heartwarming picture of Link next to his grandma. First person view will prevent Link from turning, so we can do a moonwalk. If we enter Beetle's ship and exit, it takes a really long time to load. You can see what item slide looks like from a fixed point of view. By using a series of side hops, rolls, and backflips, I got Link all the way up to the bridge. He's so tiny! You can enter Fairy Woods, but that'll just cancel the glitch. And if we infinite jump far away enough, you'll get this Ultra HD version of Outset. With all these items in Forsaken Fortress, we can really mess with the game. Probably a bad spot to practice my music. Yet another glorious snapshot. If we hit the Bokoblin with our boomerang, we interrupt the battle sequence and he never attacks us. If you play this on a passing, you can reset it and you get some really funny results. And since you can't get hurt by the Bokoblin after hitting him with the boomerang, we can push him off this ledge and steal his sword. Then we can defeat him with said sword and skip getting our own sword. Alright, so you've heard about back in time with the Gossip Stone, Stip. But have you heard about forward in time? It's pretty much the same concept as with back in time, but reversed. If you go to Forsaken Fortress 1 with the grappling hook, we can skip going up into the crow's nest and activating the cutscene where you get launched in a barrel. After getting the spoils badge, head to the top of this ladder and perform this ledge clip. Once in the water, head over to these rocks and climb up on that corner. Making our way around it, we want to build up speed with an item slide and jump over to Forsaken Fortress. Now you can either item slide into the walls of this place, or, if you have the leaf, fall underneath it where there's no water and then glide underneath the wall. Go activate the Gossip Stone dialogue with Tetra, and that will put the pirate ship in its settled state. Now save and quit. When you start back up, you'll be put on board because you skipped getting launched. Enter the ship and get the bombs. Upon exiting, you'll be put next to Windfall and will have officially escaped Forsaken Fortress. Now, whenever we start the file, we will start in the pirate ship. And note that we still don't have our boat. If you get to the point where you were supposed to get the bombs and play through it normally, everything will be the same except that there are no bombs to get, and upon restarting the file, the pirate ship will be all black, as with the Gossip Stones did. From here, we can use Method 2 of Master Sword early to enter the door for Forsaken Fortress 2. Even though we don't have the boat, the King of Red Lions is in this cutscene. But when you go down to Hyrule, the dialogue that plays is really messed up. Link seems fine, but I'm a little concerned for Tetra. When this ends, the game will freeze. If you save during the Helmorock battle, and then try to beat Forsaken Fortress 1 after resetting the game, it will also freeze. I'm afraid this file is corrupted. After getting all these items, we've progressed decently far in the game and have queued lots of dialogue for the King of Red Lions. But since he's nowhere in existence, he's never said it. So if we actually beat Forsaken Fortress, right after he sends us on our way to find the sail, he'll immediately start talking to us and, starting with saying that we found a sail, will say everything he was supposed to say after finishing certain sections of the game. Which is a lot. Just make sure you actually have the sail, or he'll talk to you forever. I wanted to see if I could get rid of the Master Sword using all these techniques, so I did the Master Sword early skip, but didn't activate the Gossip Stone. Then I performed Back in Time, but since I was bombless, I had to use an item slide to get to Dragon Roost and Super Swim to Windfall. Upon entering and exiting the ship, I was taken to Forsaken Fortress 1, and did, in fact, not have the Master Sword. Sadly, this isn't permanent, and you'll get the Master Sword back when you leave. After a failed attempt at beating the Earth Temple without the command melody, I brought Medley into the cutscene with Jabun, but the game crashed. So I dropped her off at the Earth Temple and went back, but it still crashed. Even if we trip into the ground and skip entering by boat, that won't trigger the cutscene, so this game is toast. I don't think there's any way to beat the Earth Temple without the command melody, not to mention the Wind Temple. If you didn't skip the Tower of Gods and got the light arrows via barrier skip, you can really mess with the Earth Temple boss. For one, you can just hit it with a light arrow to scatter it, and then kill off all the little Poes one by one. But you'll find yourself doing this for a long time, because apparently this doesn't register them as dead. They just disappear. Take these last few for example. I clearly finished them off, but Valhalla still reformed. And also, you can read the Mirror Shield if you still have it from barrier skip. Well, thanks for watching, and if you like glitches as much as me, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And be sure to follow me on Twitter if you want to know what I'm up to.
Dear!